Australia, a country known for its vast landscapes and untamed wilderness, hides some of the world's most unsettling and chilling mysteries within its lands and coasts. From bizarre creatures that defy logic to unexplained disappearances, this continent is home to enigmas that seem like the work of a delirious storyteller. In this video, we'll take you on a fascinating journey through Australia's darkest mysteries, following a special order, starting with the least disturbing and gradually moving toward the most spine-chilling and terrifying. Get ready to discover mysteries that will make your hair stand on end. Number 10. We begin this list with a mystery straight out of a science fiction movie. In the vast and arid desert of South Australia, a discovery left tourists, scientists, and locals speechless. A colossal figure, over 4 kilometers long, appeared overnight on the red desert soil. Today, it is known as the Marree Man. It all began on June 26, 1998, when a pilot flying over the vast Marree lands spotted something that didn't belong to the landscape. From the air, the figure of an indigenous man holding a spear was visible, striking a pose reminiscent of traditional Aboriginal hunters. But how did this enormous artwork, so perfectly precise, appear in such a remote location? And most baffling of all, why did it begin to fade soon after, as if it had never existed? This discovery, dubbed the Marree Man, sparked a wave of theories ranging from the mundane to the extraordinary. Some speculated it was the work of an eccentric artist like Bardius Goldberg, known for his monumental ambitions. Others suggested it was a secret military experiment. But the most fascinating hypothesis pointed to extraterrestrial intervention, arguing that the precision and scale of the figure could only have been achieved with advanced technology, such as GPS, which was not widely available in the 1990s. Despite the intrigue surrounding this mystery, the Marree Man was not without controversy. Australian Indigenous communities viewed the figure as a sign of disrespect toward their sacred lands, and its origin remains a topic of debate to this day. Without conclusive evidence, this monumental artwork continues to be an enigma that defies the laws of nature and time. Number 9. The previous mystery left us bewildered by its sheer size and unknown origin. But now, we move on to an enigma that combines technology, tragedy, and a fate as dark as the ocean depths. Prepare to descend into the depths of the unexplained with Number 9, the disappearance of VH-MDX AE1. In the early days of World War I, the submarine HMAS AE1 was a symbol of pride for the Royal Australian Navy. Its mission was to protect the Pacific waters, but on September 14, 1914, during a routine patrol near Cape Gazelle, it vanished without a trace, along with its 35 crew members. An immediate and exhaustive search was launched, but nothing was found. For over a century, the disappearance of AE1 fueled countless theories, from enemy attacks to accidental collisions with reefs. Finally, in 2017, the submarine's wreckage was discovered 300 meters underwater near New Britain. While this solved the mystery of its location, the question of how and why it sank remains unanswered. Researchers suggest that a structural failure may have trapped the crew in a steel coffin, leading to a slow and terrifying death as their oxygen ran out. The case of AE1 serves as a grim reminder of the perils of war and the secrets the ocean continues to guard. The disappearance of HMAS AE1 takes us into the ocean's depths with a historical and tragic mystery. While the uncertainty surrounding the submarine's fate is unsettling, its partial resolution in 2017 and the lack of supernatural elements make it more of a technical enigma than a terrifying one. It's a mystery, yes, but not one that sends shivers down your spine. However, our next entry takes us to a very different case, one that defies logic and leaves behind an eerie sense of unease. Imagine an ordinary day turning into a nightmare, leaving behind impossible questions. Number 8. On October 7, 1992, On a quiet spring morning in the suburb of Morphett Vale, South Australia, the Barreau family's life changed forever. 12-year-old Rhianna left home to buy a greeting card for her friend in the United States. What seemed like a routine errand turned into one of Australia's most baffling disappearances. At the time, bus drivers in Adelaide were on strike, forcing Rhianna to walk to the nearby shopping center. That afternoon, when her mother returned home, she found the greeting card placed on the table, along with a vinyl record on the floor. The television was blaring at full volume, but the house was empty. Alarmed, she began searching for Rhianna, but there was no sign of her. Police quickly intervened, launching an extensive search. In the months and years that followed, potential witnesses were questioned, but no one knew anything. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. In 2015, more than 20 years after her disappearance, authorities offered a $1 million reward for any information that could solve the case, but answers remained elusive. Today, despite the passage of time, Rhianna's mother still lives in the same house, hoping that one day her daughter will return, or at the very least that the truth about her fate will finally be revealed. The case of Rhianna Barreau plunges us into an atmosphere of uncertainty, where the ordinary turns into the inexplicable. But what comes next takes us even higher, literally, to a mystery that is even more unsettling. Something happened in the air, during what should have been a routine journey. Number 7. On August 9, 1981, what seemed like a routine flight aboard a Cessna 210 turned into one of Australia's greatest aviation mysteries. Piloted by Michael Hutchins, an experienced aviator, the aircraft departed with 4 passengers en route to Sydney. Everything was going smoothly until a storm blocked their path. Hutchins, trying to avoid delays, decided to fly around it, but a failure in the navigation instruments left him flying blind. In the midst of strong winds and ice forming on the wings, the pilot managed to transmit one final message: 5,000, before communication was abruptly cut off. From that moment on, the plane and its occupants disappeared without a trace. What followed was a massive search effort that lasted weeks, involving helicopters, aircraft, and even psychics. Yet, absolutely nothing was found. To this day, the case of flight VH-MDX remains an enigma. Extreme weather conditions and mechanical failures could have been fatal, but the complete absence of wreckage or any clues fuels the uncertainty. It's as if the plane simply vanished into thin air, leaving behind a mystery that defies all logic. Up until now, we've explored mysteries that have taken us from land to the skies and into the depths of the ocean. From the Marree Man, whose colossal presence left more questions than answers, to inexplicable disappearances like that of enigmas AE1, the case of Rhianna Barreau, and flight VH-MDX. But what comes next is different. We step into the darkness of the human mind, into a case where horror doesn't hide behind storms or historical enigmas, but in the calculated coldness of a criminal who left an entire community in fear. Number 6. In our 6th spot, we uncover a case that is not only perplexing in its complexity, but terrifying in the precision and coldness of its perpetrator. A meticulous criminal who managed to evade authorities for years, leaving a trail of fear and tragedy. This is the enigma of Mr. Cruel, a name that has become synonymous with terror in Australia. In 1988, the suburb of Templestowe, Australia, was shaken by a crime straight out of a nightmare. In the dead of night, a man known as Mr. Cruel broke into the Wills family home with chilling precision. He tied up and gagged the parents before disappearing with their 10-year-old daughter, Sharon. 18 hours later, Sharon was found unharmed but deeply traumatized, a reminder that this criminal wasn't just out to terrorize. He wanted to prove that he could act without being caught. 2 years later, he struck again. This time, his victim was 13-year-old Nicola Linus, abducted under similar circumstances. For 50 hours, Nicola was under the complete control of her captor, who, like in Sharon's case, eventually released her. Both girls, although they survived, could provide no useful descriptions, as Mr. Cruel was extraordinarily careful, always wearing a mask and ensuring he left no trace behind. The horror reached its peak in 1991, when 13-year-old Carmine Chan was abducted using the same method. Unlike the previous victims, Carmine never returned. A year later, her remains were found in a vacant lot. She had been shot in the head. This brutal escalation left the community in a state of panic and fury. What is most disturbing about Mr. Cruel is his perfectionism. Over the years, Australian authorities have worked tirelessly to catch him, but his ability to leave no clues is terrifying. No fingerprints, no DNA, no hair. His skill in evading justice has led to various theories. Some believe he was a professional with security expertise, possibly even a law enforcement officer. Others speculate he was a respected member of the community, which would explain how he avoided suspicion for so long. With over 20 suspects considered and decades of investigation, Mr. Cruel remains an unsolved mystery, a criminal whose cold precision has left deep scars on his victims and in Australia's history. The case of Mr. Cruel exposed us to the chilling mastery of a predator who defied authorities and instilled terror in Australian families. But the case at number 5 takes us back in time to a discovery that horrified an entire community. A mysterious bundle in a canal, a body wrapped in secrecy, and a crime so brutal that nearly a century later, it continues to raise disturbing questions. Number 5. In our 5th spot, a gruesome discovery in a drainage canal in 1934 sparked one of the most perplexing mysteries in Australian history. A victim, a brutal crime, and unanswered questions that persist to this day. This is the case of the woman in the yellow pajamas. In the quiet town of Albury, Australia, on September 1st, 1934, an ordinary day took a macabre turn. A farmer returning home after purchasing an award-winning bull spotted a strange bundle stuck in a drainage canal. As he approached, he realized it wasn't just any object. It was the lifeless body of a woman. The victim, dressed in an unusual yellow pajama set with her head wrapped in a towel, showed signs of extreme violence. Bruises, burns, and, according to some reports, gunshot wounds. The discovery shocked both the community and authorities, who faced the nearly impossible challenge of identifying her and solving the crime. For months, detectives pursued every possible lead, but all ended in dead ends. In desperation, authorities took a drastic step. They preserved the body in formalin and put it on display at the Sydney School of Medicine, hoping someone would recognize her. Despite this grim effort, the mystery seemed destined to remain unsolved. It wasn't until 1944, 10 years later, that authorities believed they had identified the victim. Using dental records, they concluded that she was Linda Agostini, a British immigrant who had disappeared in 1934. Soon after, her husband, Antonio Agostini, confessed to the crime. According to his account, Linda's death was an accident that occurred during an argument. However, many questioned the truth of his confession and the circumstances surrounding the case. Antonio was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 10 years in prison. But for many, the case of the woman in the yellow pajamas left more questions than answers. Was it really an accident, or was something far darker behind this tragedy? Even with a resolution, the mystery lingers as one of Australia's most haunting cases. While the case of the woman in the yellow pajamas revealed the horror of a brutal crime shrouded in mystery, it does not compare to what comes next. At number 4, we dive into a tragedy that intertwines death, eerie symbolism, and supernatural theories that still echo decades later. Number 4. Our 4th spot takes us to a night that turned from joy to horror in mere minutes. An inexplicable tragedy at an amusement park that left behind chilling questions and eerie theories. What happened that night continues to shroud this case in an aura of mystery. On June 9, 1979, What should have been a fun-filled evening at Luna Park, Sydney turned into a sinister nightmare for the Godson family. Jenny, John, and their 2 young sons, Damien and Craig, were enjoying the attractions when the children asked to ride the famous ghost train, accompanied by their father. No one could have foreseen that this decision would trigger a terrifying event. Minutes after the train entered its first tunnel, screams of panic shattered the night's calm. Thick columns of black smoke billowed from the tunnel as flames engulfed the ride. Park employees desperately tried to stop the train and evacuate passengers, but by the time firefighters managed to extinguish the fire, the horror was revealed. 7 people, including John and his 2 sons, had lost their lives. For Jenny, the pain of losing her family was just the beginning of a far darker mystery. Days later, while reviewing photographs taken during their visit to the park, she found an unsettling image. Her son, Damien, posed next to a strange figure wearing a demonic mask with horns. The figure seemed to radiate an inhuman malice, and the most disturbing part, no one at the park recalled seeing anyone in that costume. There were no records of an employee matching that description. That photograph became the center of chilling theories. Some compared the mysterious figure to depictions of the demon Moloch, an ancient entity associated with human sacrifices, particularly of children. According to these interpretations, the fire on the ghost train was no accident, but a deliberate act of ritual sacrifice. Despite investigations, the true cause of the incident remains elusive. Was it a tragic accident caused by negligence, or was something far darker lurking in the shadows of Luna Park? The connection to symbolic and supernatural elements only deepens the mystery, leaving more questions than answers. Number 3. As we reach the 3rd spot on our list of Australia's most inexplicable mysteries, we uncover a case that will send shivers down your spine. A series of gruesome discoveries in a wooded area revealed crimes as horrifying as they were unexplainable. With few clues, multiple theories, and no culprit, this is the disturbing dark secret of Tynong North. In December 1980, in the quiet town of Tynong North, southeast of Melbourne, a man performing routine tasks in a forested area stumbled upon something that would change the region's history forever: what appeared to be human remains. What followed was the beginning of one of Australia's most disturbing murder cases. When police arrived, what they found was horrifying. 3 bodies in various stages of decomposition, buried in the same location. 2 years later, a 4th body was discovered in the area, confirming investigators' worst fears. This was no isolated incident, but the work of a meticulous and calculated killer. Among the victims identified were 14-year-old Catherine Headland, 73-year-old Bertha Miller, who had been abducted weeks earlier, and 18-year-old Anne-Marie Sargent. Their bodies, found in close proximity, suggested that the perpetrator had a specific burial site, yet provided no clear clues about their identity or motives. Despite years of questioning and investigations, police were unable to solve the case. Some speculated that there wasn't a single killer, but rather multiple unrelated crimes that seemed connected. Others theorized that the murders could be linked to dark rituals, given the pattern of disappearances and the secluded locations where the bodies were found. The confusion deepened when similar cases emerged in the nearby town of Frankston. The victims shared disturbing similarities: women who vanished, only to be found weeks or months later in remote areas. To this day, the dark secret of Tynong North remains an unsolved case, a mystery that represents the worst aspects of the unknown. The Tynong North case exposed us to the horrors of a serial killer who left behind a trail of unanswered questions. But our next mystery is different. This one isn't about a human crime, it's something far more primal and terrifying. Number 2, we now venture deep into the rural lands of Queensland, where mystery and fear intertwine around a place that seems to emanate an evil beyond comprehension. In this spot, we uncover the chilling enigma of the Wilga Hole. In 1941, in the remote reaches of Queensland, a newspaper article in the Sunday Mail brought attention to a place previously known only through local legends, the Wilga Hole. What seemed like an ordinary water hole near a cattle station in Ruthven soon became the center of events that defied all logical explanation. It all began when a worker decided to build a small cabin near the hole to live with his wife. But the peaceful atmosphere was shattered one night when the man returned from work to find his wife in a state of absolute panic. She babbled incoherently about blood-curdling screams rising from the depths of the hole, sounds so terrifying that they had left her mind on the verge of collapse. Weeks later, after returning from a trip, the man found his wife even more disturbed. This time, the screams were louder, closer, as if the evil within the hole was trying to claw its way into their home. Unable to bear it any longer, they abandoned the place for good, warning others of the horrors they had experienced. Despite their warnings, a group of skeptics decided to investigate the rumors themselves. They camped near the hole on a moonless night, convinced they would find nothing unusual. But past midnight, they were violently awakened by a sound unlike anything they had ever heard. A piercing, unnatural scream erupted from the hole, so intense that it seemed to cut through the very fabric of the night. The men fled in terror, vowing never to return. Since then, the Wilga Hole has remained shrouded in legends of an ancient evil that no one can explain. Is it a natural phenomenon, or something far darker that defies our understanding of the world? The mystery persists, fueling the fear of those who know its story. So far, we've explored Australia's most terrifying mysteries, from chilling disappearances to supernatural events that defy logic. But there is one thing even more horrifying, a case where ritualism, symbolism, and an unspeakable crime come together to form one of the most disturbing enigmas in recent history. Get ready to uncover the #1 most unsettling mystery of all. Number 1. On August 11, 1994, a fisherman named Mark Peterson was sailing peacefully along the Hawkesbury River north of Sydney. As he cast his nets, he felt a powerful tug, making him think he had caught an enormous fish. But what emerged from the water was not a sea creature. It was something no one could have anticipated: a steel crucifix with a human body bound to it. The scene was so disturbing that Mark, visibly shaken, immediately called the police. What seemed like an accidental discovery quickly became the center of one of Australia's most chilling mysteries. The remains, belonging to a young man between the ages of 20 and 40, were arranged in a macabre fashion, the body and head meticulously secured to the crucifix, wrapped in plastic, and fastened with thick wire. The ritualistic display suggested execution, revenge, or something even darker. The body's advanced state of decomposition complicated the investigation from the very beginning. The victim's fingerprints had completely deteriorated due to the time spent underwater, making identification nearly impossible. Despite police efforts, investigators failed to determine who the man was or who had committed this heinous crime. Nicknamed Rackman due to the way he was found, the case remains an enigma. Authorities considered the possibility that the victim was Joe Biviano, a drug dealer who vanished in 1993, but DNA testing failed to confirm a match. With no conclusive evidence, the case went cold. The crucifix, both physically and symbolically heavy, only fueled theories that this crime may have been part of a ritualistic act. To this day, the remains of Rackman remain in the morgue, waiting for an identification that never comes. Decades later, the case serves as a grim reminder of the horrors that can lurk beneath the surface of our reality. The case of Rackman ranks #1 because it embodies all the elements of the most terrifying mysteries: a brutal crime, dark symbolism, and a total absence of answers. The gruesome crime scene, coupled with the inability to identify the victim or the perpetrator, elevates this case to a level of uncertainty and fear that no other on the list has surpassed. It is the epitome of the unexplainable and the most unsettling example of the secrets Australia still holds. But this isn't all. There are also mysterious videos recorded in Australia that might interest you. If you want to learn more, You can watch them here.